Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there is generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings. We'll go ahead and get started with board communications. Start with Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, sir. I just left a call with Leah Horner, the governor's staffer, and Commissioner Hall from Lincoln County, and Gina Nickel, the executive director of AOC, and Rob Bovett. Here's the thing, they're asking for COVID updates. I think our mechanics of COVID are going well in Clatsop County. We had a very humane conversation about the emotional costs and the emotional recovery and how the governor can lead us into that, at the same time keeping up the impetus to continue getting vaccinated, because the human response, and I'm glad to see the public health directors on this, the human response is to back off. Oh, it's not a problem anymore. I don't have to get a vaccine if I don't have it. I don't have to observe social distance. I can relax. All bets are off. We get to go back to normal, and it's the old normal, not the new normal. So I'm positioning Clatsop County as the governor's trusted partner as we go forward for full recovery, not just the vaccinations and the hospitalizations and all of the physical health matters, but the mental and emotional health matters that will really result in a flourishing community that has to be our ultimate goal on the other side, or at least that's my intention. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. I appreciate you doing that, and I think we do need to, through as many avenues as possible, get the message out there for folks to sign up for a vaccine on the county vaccine survey and get scheduled for a clinic. So I think that's a great message to get out there. Commissioner Bang.
Could I just
go ahead and make another comment, Commissioner Thompson?
Well, because here's what she said. They're finding that it's people who get vaccinated for the love of other people who are coming into it now. So how do we have a positive message based on do this because you love somebody and want to be able to be with them and still keep people coming? Thank you, sir. I didn't want to miss that.
No, I think that's great. Commissioner Bangs.
Yeah, just a couple things. I was just taking note that my email inbox has been inundated with conversation regarding, our short-term rental situation that we've been discussing. And I think I just need to keep pushing it to the forefront to make sure that we at some point address and handle whatever is coming through and out of the STR discussions, just to facilitate action, I think is where I'm going with that. Wanted to make a note, we have a preschool, it looks like a preschool daycare facility closing there in Cannon Beach, and I was extremely saddened to see that information shared with me. And I'm gonna do some hunting and picking to see the whys, the hows. I know being in childcare during COVID has been extremely stressful for all of the employees. The number of pivots and the number of just having to follow all the mandates, it's heart-wrenching and heartrending for employees, let alone families. And so I think that I'm going to do some reaching out to kind of figure out what caused it, what the crux of the matter is. Maybe there's some discussion that can be had. I just am sad to see a closure occurring, especially when we're in such a child care desert as it is in our community. And then to dovetail off Commissioner Thompson regarding the COVID and looking to the future, I really am wondering if there's a way that we can wrangle our school districts together and have a unified message for our children moving into the school year next year. I know that the Department of Education has said that we are going to be testing in 2 subjects for all of our school children in the state of Oregon. But moving forward, what is our school year next year going to look like? I feel like as a parent, I'm speaking as a parent at this moment. As a parent looking into next year's school year, it's extremely stressful. I feel like if we can provide information, if we can somehow facilitate conversation, ease some emotions, it's stressful for the parents, and I can't imagine what it is for the children right now, especially since, you know, sports are happening, but sports are not happening. Nothing's normal for these kids, and I know that we're going to have to come up. I hate the phrase new normal. I know we're going to have to develop a new situation for our children, but I just don't want us to lose sight looking forward for our families and the health of our families and our community and the health of our children, especially the mental health of our children. So anyhow, I just wanted to say thank you, Commissioner Thompson, for bringing that up and then pushing it a little further.
I completely agree. I think there will be a lot of community discussions this summer going forward into the new school year, and certainly we're going to be you know, having a lot of changes, I know, in just the next few months, and have to deal with those as a community, not just individually as a county. Yeah, I saw Commissioner Toyoka there. Is he on the call here?
I am on the, oops.
There you are.
I
Just
am
don't
here.
see it.
I am here. There we go. Sorry. I am in my vehicle joining the meeting tonight. So welcome to everyone. Nice to see you all again, even if it's only virtually. I'd like to echo a few of your sentiments too, as far as, you know, a lot of calls about short-term rentals and, you know, Wahana Road, but the overriding principle is getting everybody, especially our youth, back into life. I mean, that's like I said, the effects on our youth are tremendous. What's going on here, and trying to do what we can to give them activity, give them access to life, I think is essential moving forward. Whatever avenue we can find there. I hate the phrase new normal. I really do, because it means we've accepted compromise. I think, you know, what's the old saying? If you work through your limitations, you get to keep them. You know, I think we as a country, as an American people, can push through this and achieve even greater things. Take lessons learned and push forward and become even better. So that's my approach, and I might be naive, but I believe in that. I believe we are going to go beyond it and prove America even better because of these lessons learned. The other point is, you know, it's with the youth. I talked to county manager. I think there's some other issues we need to bring on the slate, you know, in the future, as far as from traffic at Wahana Road, getting kids back into fields this summer, to, you know, for activities, and, you know, and a few other. One thing is, I know we're discussing the planning commission tonight. There's a post that needs to be appointed. Having set in, I know Commissioner Webb, if she is with us, and she said on the last meeting with me as well. I would just like, as we appoint this new person on the commission, to restate the mission of the planning commission. In the last few times sitting in, I think it's my personal opinion, my humble opinion, is there's a drift from that, and I think if they look back at the mission statement, I think we can achieve greater. So thank you. Oops. How did I lose voice here?
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I had my mute on. That's why. Thank you, Commissioner. My fault. We'll go to Commissioner Webb. Thanks for your comments.
My apologies for being 5 minutes late to this meeting today. So if I'm repeating anything that anybody else has to say or that you've already talked about, just cut me off. First of all, Mark, did you say anything about the fact that there was a very successful meeting between our Representative Bonamici and our senators and their staffs today with
I left that for you.
Oh, thank you. And they were with the Department of Labor the part of them that runs the Job Corps program. And Bonamici staff was very, very positive about the meeting. And they felt, first of all, as some of us suspected, some of these decisions were made in the previous administration. And so now the new administration is taking a closer look and has promised that they will work with us, with local governments here. I was particularly upset that they had ignored our workforce training board, on which I sit, and in fact, they are supposed to be working with that group. So anyway, Ali Maeda, who is my close contact in the representative's office, was very, very high on it. And she said they were actually, that the feds were particularly very pleased with the breadth of the comments that they had gotten from the community, which I thought was a very good indication. And they have promised to, in fact, reissue the RFP. I was not aware that workforce, that at least in facilities like ours at Tongue Point, that the federal government actually subcontracts this work. And I didn't realize that all of their employees are private companies, and that so they didn't have a lot of background on how these decisions had been made. And they being the folks from DOL who are meeting with our representatives. So they promised that they would talk to us and take into close account the various comments they got. I'm sure you're as excited as I am that the Oregon Coast Visitors Association, OCFA, has declared climate change is very real on the Oregon coast, and that our tourism programs should reflect that. That we should do explanations about what's likely to happen, what climate change is going to look like, and will be helping us do that. I also hope that our staff, in their discussions about what might come to us in the new federal legislation, is that they include tourism infrastructure. We really struggle here to provide signage, for instance, which can be very expensive, and other things that we should include if we are actually doing some infrastructure planning. I attended the River Council, which is part of the Lower Nehalem Watershed Council. And they did a whole program on Big Creek and Little Creek, which I think I've talked to you all about before. And they're very excited because they feel that the science is very favorable in terms of realigning Big Creek in a way that it can reclaim its former trajectory, and that saving this very valuable and very large salmon habitat is quite possible. And ODF&W is also promising that they will support some funding for us for that, and that would be very cool. I attended a seminar done by DLCD by their sea level expert, and it was really interesting, and I'm pretty sure it's available on the DLCD website, about what will sea level rise mean on the North Coast. And it was really fascinating. It talked a lot about the issues, not only what it's going to look like, but the issue. One of the things they were most concerned about is that we're not just at a place where the sea level is rising, but we're at a place where a lot of fresh water goes into the ocean. And the interface between that salt water and fresh water is fascinating and has some real important implications for our fisheries. And I recommend it highly. Next week, I'm going to be spending the whole week, few hours every day, doing the strategic plan for the Housing Authority. And I'm really excited that they're bringing in a facilitator, and I'm real excited that we're spending the time on that, because I think it will be well worth it. Thank you. I think that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Thompson has her hand up there.
I do. Thank you. Well, I'm very interested in that, the strategic plan, because that's part of everybody's effort. So thank you for working on that with him. I know you'll bring a lot to the table. I'm curious about how that will, what we need will inform that, through you, and then what will come out of it where we can get aligned behind it. I assume that that's the outcome you anticipate for that strategic plan.
Commissioner Thompson, that's a really wonderful question, because one of my frustrations on NOHA and on a couple of the other multi-county boards I serve on is just exactly what the relationship always is between these multifunctional nonprofits and our board-wide facilitation. I know that you all have heard me say before that to me, it's very frustrating on these boards to truly understand what the role of the county commissioner is. And in fact, Donna and I had a long conversation this week about, because he has recently spoken with the NOHA interim director. I think we need to be a little bit more conscious and talk about what these relationships look like, because in some respects, in these multi-county, like the Workforce Development Board, they really operate very independently. They operate according to federal guidelines. There isn't a lot of decision making that we really have, and so my emphasis always is that I just need to keep you all informed about what's going on, and they seldom really ask us to make any big decisions. NOHA, of course, is completely different. So I think that our county manager is going to be bringing to us soon some kind of a discussion, the larger issue of housing in Clatsop County and how that interfaces with NOHA. So we love those strategic plans, don't we, Commissioner?
Perfect answer. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Good discussion. In the interest of time, I think I'll reserve my comments for the liaison reports in the regular meeting. Does anybody have any comments on the formal agenda this evening? Are we good with that? Okay, we'll move on to the legislative update. Do we have, who's going to be presenting the legislative update tonight?
It was going to be Philip, but I didn't see him logging in, and so he did mention that he was on the phone, so I don't know if he's still caught, so on the phone. So if
I am.
we
Can
could,
you hear me?
Oh, there we go. Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't do the *6, and that was on me. I apologize. So yes, and I apologize by joining via phone. I'm just down in Salem today, and so just going back and forth. So not a huge amount of updates on bill specifics this week, or since we last talked last week. What has occurred is that today or yesterday was the next big chamber of deadline. If you recall, last month it was it was called First Chamber of Origin deadline, and they had to have a work session for your bills scheduled Well, yesterday was that deadline to have that work session that was scheduled, had to have occurred by yesterday. There were a lot of bills that died. We are preparing that report for Monica and Don so that we can get that to them, saying these are the things that died. There was a lot of commotion a bit in the sense of committees had huge agendas. No way could they get through them. Oh, it was a snowballing effect from the weeks prior where everything just that didn't get heard just got carried over to the next. So a lot of bills either died that way, or we also saw a huge amount of bills that didn't get discussion that were just sent over to rules or ways and means where they're not subject to deadline. And so those conversations that would have occurred in that policy committee didn't even occur. They just punted to another committee to keep them alive. Now, some of that is policy based. They wanted to have those discussions. Others just had really good relating to clauses that were broad. So if that bill would be gut and stuffed as an option moving forward. So to that point, we are preparing that report and we'll get that to you. OLIS is updating as of all those committees ran really late last night because of that deadline. So things are getting uploaded, and I want to make sure whatever we send you doesn't have a, hey, this is a follow-up amended version. So that will come to you. The other conversations on the budget side of things we are wrapping up round one of budget hearings. We are preparing to receive a couple things on the budget. One is guidance from the federal government on the strings that are going to be attached to the federal dollars coming to the state. As a reminder, that's $2.6 billion to the state, and that's in addition to what local governments and are getting in education are getting. But that 2.6, they're starting to have robust conversations about how to allocate that. What we are hearing is that the chambers are not currently agreeing on it. On the Senate side, they are wanting to allocate those funds in one process. They started collecting forms about potential programs that could be one-time funding throughout the state. On the House side, they are requesting those projects as well, but are looking at more of a legislative directed approach rather than sending allocations out to regions and they decide. The House seems to be not having that same conversation. So I want to flag that because what we are noticing, there's a lot of confusion between the conversations going on with federal funds coming in that could fund projects and investments. They're starting to have the capital construction and lottery conversations about the same time as well. So just today we were talking with legislators and there was definitely a confusion about what projects are going to go under which list. That being said, I don't know if the county is preparing a list of potential funding requests that you may be looking at. I think getting that to our legislative delegation would be timely, just because they are going to start having those conversations. And as soon as that May revenue forecast comes in, you're really going to see the budget start moving into phase 2 and third readings. And right behind that comes the capital construction and program funding conversation. So I do want to just put that on everyone's radar. But that is the big budget conversations. The huge amount of work that went on since our last call has been only just working on the already posted work session agendas and trying to meet yesterday's deadline. So I guess I'm just going to pause there and see if any commissioners had questions that we can answer.
Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, sir. I'm very interested in your input to our county staff leadership and staff sharing that with the commissioners and input. For those of us who have liaison assignments, it's an opportune way for us to gauge what kind of effort we can make to be most effective in supporting the county through our other connections. That's another opportunity for effective collaboration and cooperation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions, comments from the commission? Commissioner Webb?
Yeah. When are we going to get our next report from you?
That would be, since yesterday was the deadline, I'm just waiting for OLIS to make sure that OLIS has all the updates and our bill tracker does, and then that will be pumped out right after that. It will include the bills that died yesterday.
Good.
and
Good.
those that were punted to rules and stuff. And so I want to make sure that was all inclusive rather than sending you maybe 2 reports back to back and one's obsolete within 24 hours.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
no problem.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Philip, do you have anything else?
No, it's a quick report this week. Nothing really changed from our last call on agendas that were posted or anything. So just look forward to the report on what died, and we should have a very different type of report next week.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so very
All right.
much.
Thank you, commissioners. All right.
We'll move on to our public health update. And Margot, turn it over to you.
My camera's finally working today. Good evening, commissioners. I have quite a few things to update you on and hopefully answer questions. And if I'm not able to, I will do my best to get the answer. I'm just going to run through the list and we can talk lastly about what we're doing about Johnson & Johnson, as I was just reading a draft press release we're putting together. Chris and I are submitting to Tom. Let's see. We just met with, actually, we've been convening the Columbia Pacific CCO and our own ITGIS team. And we're looking at all the vaccination data and we're starting to build a live interactive map. So in real time, we can monitor how the vaccination campaign is doing in Clatsop County. And so that will go to on our hub dashboard that's recently been launched, the updated dashboard. And I think this is a real opportunity, as well as I think it's really creating the foundation for other public health work and population-based work to be demonstrated to the community in a way that's visual and not just numbers and words. So excited about this collaboration. And again, we'll be able to represent a story better sometimes than words can. We have a number of clinics scheduled. We just had one that will wrap up tonight at 7 p.m. I was overseeing the clinical side of the vaccine clinic at Seaside High School yesterday. I think a little over 1,000 doses were administered. Again, people are registering for vaccines. We are seeing some cancellations, probably postponement based upon the recent news. But again, that's just ongoing education and being very transparent with the public about the vaccines we're using and what we're learning in our own community. With the pause in the Johnson & Johnson vaccine administration, we were allocating that vaccine to specific outreach clinics. We had administered it in our Monday clinic at the canneries. Currently waiting for a response back from the canneries, particularly DeYang. We want to offer a listening session. I will be there with interpreters just to sit, listen, hang out for a few hours. If there are any individuals who have questions or concerns, they can come visit us, ask questions without disrupting any of their operations. So we're in the process of making that available, as well as other communication. For the other clinics that were scheduled, including Jewel to be Johnson & Johnson, we are proceeding with those clinics and we're going to use Moderna vaccine. So they will be scheduled for that second dose. The ones that may be paused a little bit longer and wait, we are scheduled on April 29th for the Homeless Connect event. And I think we will proceed using using the Moderna vaccine for that event. And I just met with my colleague Lisa McLean this morning, and I think we're going to proceed with the homebound visits as well using Moderna. We don't want to pause anything. We want our population and community to be vaccinated. The state, I was on an allocation call today with the state, and some counties now have some vaccine on the shelf. They've reached their targeted population. They're sort of not by numbers of saturation, but those who want to get vaccinated have gotten vaccinated, and now they're moving through the hesitant population. And so the state might be shifting around allocations. Good news in Clatsop County is we are administering the vaccines we're receiving, and we're being very proactive about our outreach. Let's see, also had a meeting yesterday with OHA. This is not vaccine related, but around contact tracing and case investigation. As you know, our cases are going up. Sadly, tragically, we had another death this last week, actually last week, around from COVID. And so the state is currently providing us support around contact investigation, contact tracing, just because of our own capacity to do it to the level that we want to be processing those reports. And so that's going to continue. And I'm very pleased to say that, as well as they have liaison supports. We're finding that with some of the faith communities, they're more reluctant to share information around members of their faith community. And so it makes it that much more difficult to identify contacts and do the work that needs to be done. So I'm happy about that support and relationship that will continue. Also, we'll be meeting with OHA regarding testing. OHSU is going to continue, and I may have already shared this with you, but this is confirmed now. They'll continue testing through the month of April, and we are going to be partnering with OHA to continue testing and ramping up if we need to do more starting in May. I have a great partnership with CCA. They're taking over all the catering and food for all our vaccination events, which is fantastic. And I'm personally very happy because I was coordinating that. And so they are doing a beautiful, fantastic job, and the volunteers are really pleased, really being mindful and intentional about taking care of our people. We put in an EOC request today. You know, volunteers are amazing, but these evening hours are a little bit more challenging. We split the shifts, and the first shift fills up, but the shift going into the evening is less than popular, and yet we want to continue with these hours because it accommodates those who are working during the day. So we've put in an EOC request for vaccinators and monitors because that requires a specific training for that. Let's see, I think that's about it on that. I think hopefully you know all the numbers with our daily sit-stat report and our dashboard. As far as Johnson & Johnson, Chris was on that call today. And it looks like it may be another week or two before we'll have any definitive guidance about whether or not we will proceed with maybe a little bit more caution or a change in criteria about who may or may not be vaccinated. So we're just again on standby with that. The good news is, you know, we have what's called VAERS, and it's been around for a long time. We use it for routine vaccinations, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. It's being used, of course, with this vaccination campaign, as well as the Be Safe. Maybe some of you received that when you got vaccinated, if you've been vaccinated. And it's an opportunity, it's not required, but for anyone who gets vaccinated, they get reminders, everyday questions from the CDC asking, how are you doing today? Do you have any symptoms? It doesn't require a password, doesn't ask for a lot of personal information. I did it myself. And so they are collecting a tremendous amount of data, and it is that data that is alerting us to what's happening as more people are getting vaccinated. So as hospitals get trained up in clinical sites out in the community around what to watch for when someone has presented with certain symptoms. Of course, one of those questions, have you been vaccinated with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine? The algorithm and protocols for treating those individuals. So while it is a disruption, we will continue moving forward with our campaign. So that's it on the Johnson & Johnson, unless you have specific questions related to that. I feel like I'm missing something, but it will come back to me and you may have questions.
Any questions for our County Health Director? Commissioner Webb.
I made the suggestion, I think a couple of months ago, when our case count started going up. I'd love to see in all this great presentation material and data that you all are producing, I wish there were a way that we could publish the number of people within each of our population groups, because that has changed dramatically over the course of the pandemic. And I think it's a way to help people understand that younger and younger people are getting this. And I think that I just think it's something from a public information standpoint that wouldn't be that hard to do. I mean, what are there, like 6 or 8 population groups? They're just by decades, right? And
Yeah, and that's published and updated daily. When the true case counts are updated by OHA, that information, it's very detailed, is on the OHA dashboards. And so what we can do is we can just take that data and include it in our own reporting and press release. So that's not an issue at all. The data is available. It's very public already.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I just think it's important as our case count keeps getting younger.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Any other questions for our County Health Director? Is it fair to say that we're getting through our database and folks that are signing up for the vaccine survey can be scheduled for a clinic in relatively short order? Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we don't have a wait list like we did before. And as you know, and this is really important for all of you, even though we're saying it, we're going to keep saying it because it's been an issue, is that, well, all people are becoming eligible this next week. That does not apply. We need to qualify that in all counties. Yes, it's opening up. Anyone can schedule. They may be screened out once they've scheduled, because in our county, only individuals 18 years and older can be vaccinated. 16 and older at this time is for Pfizer, and we do not have Pfizer vaccine in our county. This was the other thing I wanted to share with you, which is important, is earlier this week, we had a regional meeting with OHA. It included Tillamook and Columbia County to talk about this particular population, the 16 to 17-year-olds. They're not a large segment of our population. We're used to vaccinating youth in our community, so that piece isn't so challenging. But how can we get Pfizer to Clatsop County or to all of these counties? It comes in trays of 1,000 doses. It's very specific temperature management, cold chain management. And so what does that look like if a particular freezer or could be deployed to Clatsop County, and how do we get that vaccine administered? So we started that conversation, I think it was on Monday, and so I would expect by next week we'll start solidifying a plan. But right now, only 18 years and older, and everyone's a messenger on that, because we've had some issues of and we're not the only county of individuals less than 18, because of the confusion and what's out in the media world, thinking that their youth can get vaccinated. So we're being very intentional about screening.
Well, thank you very much for the report. Appreciate it, Margot. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the Human Services Advisory Council membership recommendations.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to introduce Hannah, who is our HSAC liaison, and she is going to present this information for you.
Hi, good evening. So the Human Services Advisory Council is appointed by the board to address developmental disabilities, mental health, and addiction service needs within our county. 4 committee member terms expired on February 28th to this year, sorry. Those members are Randy Anderson, Tess Chedsey, Linda Dugan-Winstanley, and Dr. Robert Mushin. There are currently 6 vacancies open. The vacancies were then advertised and a total of 7 applications were received. Non-expired members Linda Crandall and Marion Durley reviewed the applications. The Human Services Advisory Council recommends that the board reappoints all 4 readjoining members, Randy Anderson, Tess Chedsey, Linda Dugan-Winstanley, and Dr. Robert Mushin. The council also recommended 2 additional members, Julia Weinberg and Linda Ryder. Linda Ryder, however, withdrew her application. 1 application was also disqualified due to being a current county employee. All reappointed members will then serve a 3-year term ending February 28th, 2024, and the new members would serve a 2-year term expiring February 28th, 2023.
Okay, thank you very much, Hannah. Any questions? Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, sir. Of course, I'm grateful to the work of staff. I'm grateful to the work of the commissioners, the members of the committee. I just want to say I was really impressed that a county staffer was so gung-ho that they wanted to volunteer too. So even though they're not eligible, well done. Good community spirit.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you very much, Hannah. Appreciate the presentation. We'll go ahead and move on to the next item, which is the Habitat Conservation Plan discussion. We have 10 minutes allotted for this. We did have some comments that were, or I guess a letter or a drafted letter to send to NEPA, correct? Have folks had an opportunity to review that? Any discussion? Commissioner Webb.
Yeah. I'd just like to share my reaction to the process that the formation of this letter took. For the first time ever in my board packet, I received something that looks like, the usual, the commission, the what the topic is, who it's been presented by, etc. And then there has always been a staff report attached to that. And I didn't receive a staff support report for any one, either the initial item that said that we were going to talk about this, nor the in my packet this time. And I find that a little disturbing because that's why we have staff. We have a staff so that we can be smart and well-rounded about our decision making. I was very disappointed in this letter. I felt it was it didn't give any perspective but one, and it was a very narrow perspective on the HCP. I think it was in the staff report for the week that was, I think the words were, there was discussion about the HCP. I don't remember any discussion. I remember one commissioner talking about the HCP, and the way the presentation was done, there were no sections. There was no specification of what the issues were in the report. It made me think, number one, I just don't think that's a good way for us to do business. And I think that there should always be a staff report, and especially for things that are controversial. I think we should always have a more neutral presentation. Then it occurred to me that with issues like this, and this is something actually that Commissioner Thompson and I have talked a great deal about. When we have, one of the things that has struck with me from my first session at County College was the advice from one of the presenters that the most important responsibility that a county commission has is its ability to call together different people with different kinds of expertise, so that everybody can get smarter about an issue. And we have, I think we've just been so busy, especially the last year, that we haven't had the opportunity to really do that. And of course, not being able to meet in person is also an issue. But I would like to have seen a presentation, perhaps by the forestry folks, by ODF. I mean, by the state forestry folks, about the HCP in a very a very straightforward way. I don't think any of us should be expected to read the 1,000-page document, but I would love to have heard ODF's perspective presentation. Save me 100 hours. I'm a slow reader. 100 hours of, and unfortunately, we don't have any staff that is in charge of natural resource issues like this. And you're going to hear me ask for that in the budget process, because I think there are so many things that are environmental and natural resource related that we need to get smart about stuff like this. I think it would have been very exciting for ODF to come and have given us a presentation on the HCP, and even maybe open up a second session or something to some of the folks who are objecting to the HCP. And so it's a thought. I really think that especially in the cases where we don't have staff who can present the facts to us, that we should think more about convening things and bringing people. The last couple of months, we've been doing a great job of bringing some people in, who give us background on things. And that's just so valuable. And especially when the issue is something that we don't staff. So I guess that's my thing. I am not willing to sign the letter that was proposed. I'll be writing my own to NEPA for the comment period.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Yeah, Commissioner Webb and I spoke earlier today, and I agree with you. I think it's really in our best interest to have broad discussions, to have experts come and to a work session, and we can have a more in-depth discussion of timber policy. I think we all know, though, that this situation was one where we had a very shortened, truncated period to respond. And I think that's what we're all reacting to, that this was a process that was flawed from the very beginning. You don't have a 1,000-page document dumped on you and then been told you have to respond within a couple days. That's the problem. That's what we're reacting to, and that's why we have to write our letter to NEPA, no matter how we feel about the HCP. The process is flawed.
That's right.
They've done this in the past. They've done HCP processes in the past. They've worked with the local field folks at the ODF. They've worked with the counties, so the counties were part of that process. They've also, in tandem with a HCP, they've had a forest management plan that they were working on. So that's a companion piece to this, and that's
right.
not.
That's a resulting.
But it actually should be done at the same time, and that's how it's been done in the past. And the thing about this is that this is something that's 70 years. We're going to be locked into this for 70 years. Imagine what can change in 70 years. To be stuck with something that we haven't had input into, that we haven't had a seat at the table into, is not something I'm willing to do. And I don't think this commission is. I think the commission wants to have involvement from day one. We want it to be involved in this process, and we need to have the social implications, the economic implications, and the environmental impacts fully explained before we can agree to something. So those things are all missing in this. And what has happened is a very shortened process and not a transparent one. And just as your Commissioner Webb talking about transparency, I think I agree with you. I want to have a transparent process. I want us to all discuss things. It's similar to what we were reacting to with the RFP with Tongue Point. You have a period of time. You've got to intercede or intervene where you can. And that's what I see this letter is. This letter is an opportunity for us to intervene into the process so that we can have a seat at the table, one that was denied us to this point.
I agree fully.
I see some hands up. Commissioner Bangs.
Yes, so I fully agree. I wish we had had a lot more time. I wish that we were at the table last year or even 2 years ago. We never were at the table. They gave presentations to us in October. They've had public presentations done over the span of the time of creating this HCP, and they've taken public comment, but they've never had any county representation in the room discussing the issues that are in each county and the concerns. Not once was there any member of any county, and to my knowledge, I don't even think that there was any members of our local ODF offices there. I'm not sure, but I don't think that anybody from our local offices were actually in the room discussing county-wide concerns. And when I really wish I could have given an actual presentation, but that HCP was dropped and it was a quick pivot to try to read quickly and come to some sort of understanding regarding the impacts that is going to occur. And I openly discussed with county manager of who could we invite. But the thing is in such a short window, there's no way to organize such a response or invite such a discussion. And I'm hoping in the future that we can have such an open discussion, because I feel like all of us want balance. All of us want balance. And my concern with this HCP is the social and economical impact. It's not going to be balanced. And just for your guys' preview, I pulled some numbers from ODF and from the HCP. So our previous year averages for our income from state lands is right around 22 million, and that's a 5-year average. The HCP planned average value for the next 70 to 80 years is right around 12 million. So that's approximately a 10 million reduction in revenues. And I went so far as to take and assume the average yearly wage of $75,000, and it equates to approximately 133 jobs. These are teachers, fire departments, rural law enforcement, care center employees, caregivers. The job loss is only considering jobs that come from the county's share of the revenue, and that's not even discussing job loss from the logging industry or the mill industry that we will face, which will then trickle to restaurants and so on and so forth. I think it's important to understand that approximately 50% of the local district that is being set aside in reserve area is not only a restriction, there's numerous restrictions that are also going to exist in the production zones. And I'm not sure who still has their mic on, but that's okay. It's areas that were not likely considered in the numbers that I mentioned above. That means that loss of 133 jobs is an optimistic, estimate. The examples that I pulled from the actual HCP within those 989 pages was that I noticed that there's an increased number of wildlife trees, which are going to result in higher logging costs. So that's wildlife trees within the production zones. So they're increasing the number of wildlife trees, which will then increase the logging costs. And I noticed that it's also unclear. The road allowances are unclear, which will likely increase hauling and project costs. And then there's a requirement to maintain portions of production zones in a larger diameter or larger diameter stands. Sadly, that will curtail our ability to play the market and potentially capitalize when we have high log markets, you know, higher dollar for the board feet. And so those are just some examples of further impacts despite what we see just on the surface, that on the surface reduction in funds and reduction in production acreage. That's stuff that's going to happen on our production acres. And so it's further constraining our productivity. It's just going to further deplete ODF's estimate of what we're going to be receiving in our future. And so looking at this estimate, I would say it's a high estimate of what we will be receiving from them versus in actuality. Some of the highs were like up to 16 million for 1 year, and some of the lows were like 4 million for 1 year that we would be receiving from state lands. And so to me, that job loss will be devastating. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Banks. This is a topic, obviously, that we do need to have more time to discuss. We're right up against the hour here. If Commissioner Toyoka, if you make your comments really brief, really quick.
Thank you. I just had, one other comment on our letter and on the HCP is, I think the obvious, the forest land management practices. If you look at, what ODF has previously put out and what Council of Forest Land Trust counties have, supplied information, that current HCP actually is counter to any of those practices. So I think that could be addressed, should be addressed as well.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. Very briefly, my son, the climate economist, says, Mom, it all mixes in the stratosphere. The only thing that works for climate change is worldwide climate accord. We do not achieve that by destroying the timber industry in Oregon or the economy in Clatsop County. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. So we have 2 minutes. We have the public safety communication plan. Can we do that in 2 minutes?
Actually, commissioners, that the agenda summary, as you'll notice, did not make it in there, and that did not get removed from the agenda. So I'm giving you back a minute of your life.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Well, we've got 1 minute. Do folks need to do something for a minute there? We can reconvene here. Okay.
And just to clarify, that will come before the board at a later date.
Okay, thank you. So we'll take a quick break.
So,
we'll start here. Commissioner Toyoka.
Mr. Quila?
Yes.
I think I previously discussed, I sent you an email with some notes because I must leave our regular meeting early. So hope you received the notes on all the agenda items I wish to have input on.
I did. Yes, thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. I appreciate that.
Perfect.
And
Perfect.
leave when
Thank
you
you.
need to. Yep. Yep. All right. Looks like we got everybody back. If you're not speaking, if you could mute yourself, that would be fantastic. We'll go ahead and convene in regular session. The Board of Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all Clatsop County service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board, is now meeting in regular session. Can I have everybody mute your feed, please? Mute yourself. I see one person that's joined. If can I have you mute yourself there, TB?
That would be Tom Bennett, Commissioner.
Oh, sorry, Tom. Okay.
Pardon me, my camera is not functioning, so you just get the symbol there. I'm filling in for Teresa tonight.
Okay. Sounds good. Go ahead and push mute.
Oh, I'll do the roll call if you like.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Commissioner Quayla.
Here.
Commissioner Thompson.
Here I am.
Commissioner Toyoka.
Here.
Commissioner Webb.
Here.
Commissioner Bangs.
Here.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Thompson would move to approve the agenda.
I will second.
Moved and seconded by Commissioner Thompson, Commissioner Toyoka to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. First item is the proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month. Do we have a staff report?
Sorry, my apologies, that's me. And I'm trying to multitask and I'm not doing a very good job at it, so my apologies. So staff is asking that the board recognize that the month of April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and that every child is precious and deserves to grow up in a healthy and safe, nurturing environment that's free from the dangers and harmful effects of child abuse and neglect. And so we're asking that the Board of County Commissioners read the proclamation that is included on page 24 in your packet, recognizing the importance of keeping our children in our community and across our country safe.
Thank you, Monica. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution proclaiming Child Abuse Prevention Month?
Oh, well, I'm waiting for Commissioner Bangs to do that. I bet there she wants to.
I move to approve to support the resolution and order proclaiming April 2021 as Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Motion carries. I'll go ahead and read the proclamation. In the matter of proclaiming April 2021 to be Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas every child is precious and deserves to grow up in a healthy, safe, nurturing environment, free from the dangers and harmful effects of child abuse and neglect. And whereas child abuse and neglect impacts our entire society and can cause traumatic psychological, emotional, and physical harm, resulting in long-term economic and societal costs. And whereas child-focused prevention and intervention programs offer positive alternatives and outcomes for children and encourage families to develop strong, durable ties to their communities. And whereas child abuse prevention succeeds through partnerships among parents, child welfare agencies, mental and physical health care providers, schools, law enforcement agencies, churches, businesses, and community members by fostering loving, supportive, and violence-free homes. And whereas all citizens need to be more aware of the effects of child abuse, neglect, and prevention in order to encourage a model healthy parenting in healthy communities. And now, therefore, we, Clatsop County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2021 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Clatsop County, dated this 14th day of April 2021, and signed by the chair of the County Board of Commissioners. We'll move on to business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda, except public hearings, and we do have a public hearing this evening, or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public who have registered to speak?
We do have one citizen, sir, yes. And that
Okay.
is, we have a Nancy Chase who has signed up to speak. If you're there, Ms. Chase, you may go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
Nancy?
If you could unmute yourself.
Nancy Chase? And I only see one guest, and I don't know who that is. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other, nobody else has signed up for the public comment, correct?
No, that was the one person.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We'll move on to the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Mr. Chair, I cut you off. I didn't mean to. Move adoption of the consent calendar.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Commissioner liaison reports. We'll start with Commissioner Bangs.
I shared a lot prior to our work session, just in regards to sadly a child care center closing and concerns regarding COVID and the future of our children. And I don't really have anything else besides that this evening. Those are just right now what's priority on my mind.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. And I am so grateful to Commissioner Banks for her concern in that regard. I do what I can to confer and to support her in that regard. She's extremely capable. So thank you for your work on that. I've been active at AOC. You've seen that we continue to meet on the second Monday of the month. AOC now has, I want to say, a dispersed schedule to make meetings generally available, so we don't have to pick a policy area. So Veterans meets on Thursdays and Natural Resources meets on Fridays, and it just makes it possible for those of you who can't get enough of AOC meetings. They're virtual, it's easy, it's fun, you get to meet fun people, you get smarter and better at the job. That's my pitch, okay? It works for me. What I see is that we here in Clatsop County have a presence at AOC that we haven't enjoyed before. I think everybody who gets elected wants to do a good job, is really devoted to doing a good job, but a steady presence day after day, you know, month after month, year after year, makes a difference in how we're viewed by our colleagues. And where that becomes useful is, for example, working on the transportation issues, because I work with Commissioner Heimler on that. He's the chair and I'm the vice chair of Northwest Act. We work together there. We work together at AOC. So when we hear in the Northwest Act, oh, there's federal transportation money available, find out what your county needs, I can send immediately an email to our roadmaster and say to him, hey, look, we need a list of projects Those come back to us. We then met with Congresswoman Bonamici's staff, with Ali Mayeda and Maxine Sugarman, worked on the list further, refined it. The application, I think the assistant county manager worked with the roadmaster to get that submitted. I could then support it at Northwest Act. That's an example of how that regional thing works, but that's much larger across the whole state when we look at, for example, water issues, which I've also been working on, and I'll be coming back to you because we all know that water is an ongoing issue. It will be even more so with climate change and the demands of an increasing population. So we have partners, we have allies, we have colleagues. We're using them. Fire season is coming. Already the fire, holy cow, it's only April. The fire warnings are out already. Okay, so we really need to get active in this. I've been talking to the county manager about this for over a year. I'm going to say that again, just so the record is clear. Over a year, we've been talking about this. We need education. Some people don't care. They just want to do what they want to do, and they feel entitled to burn fires, which, you know, increase air pollution. It's the enjoyable beach experience, but it impacts the beaches and the shorelines and the vegetation and all that. Some people feel entitled to do pyrotechnic fire on the 4th of July. It's their patriotic right to do such things. Camping, illegal camping. Of course we need campfires if we're illegally camping because that's how we get to do it. All of these things represent fundamental issues of concern for us as Clatsop County. So fire and water, hold those thoughts. I'll continue to work on them with AOC, but I'll be coming back to you so we as a body, as a governing body concerned with the health and well-being of our people in our place can work on these together. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. I see Commissioner Bangs has her hand up there, wants to add something.
I just wanted to add one thing in regards to wildfire and so on and so forth. Oregon State had offered a Wildfire Wednesday class today, and you can register, and they're going to be hopefully popping up periodically. And you can also, according to my information, it looks like they record them and you can review them later. And so just an interesting educational piece in regards to wildfire and our upcoming fire season. So I just wanted to follow Leanne's lead.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Webb.
I'm sorry, I think I took up all my allotted time in the work session. I'm sorry. So I cede the rest of my time to Commissioner Toyoka.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Toyoka.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. I'm going to be brief as well since I gave my report mostly in the work session. The only comment I'm going to make is basically as I read through the proclamation for a Child Abuse Prevention Month, my only thought there was like, as adults, we work and we do things like, seek elected positions to help make the environment a better place for all. And especially as parents, you seek to make the world better for your children. And I read that proclamation and I just thought, boy, this should be a daily proclamation, not just have a month, but every day we should make that proclamation because the youth are our future. They are who we strive, who we live for at this point. So that was the only comment I had is like, I wish it was a daily proclamation instead of just a month.
Yeah, I completely agree, Commissioner Toyoka. Yeah, thank you for that. The only item I have is that I had a drafted letter of support that I believe Monica had sent out to the commission today. It was a letter in support of OHSU, Oregon Health Sciences University's Connected Coast proposal to establish virtual intensive care units in 2 coastal hospitals, one of those being Columbia Memorial Hospital, so the other one being a Bay Hospital in Coos Bay. And this is this is a program, you probably have heard about virtual ICU, but virtual ICU would basically provide audio and visual equipment in our critical care units, and they would be connected to intensivists at Oregon Health Sciences University that could actually treat patients from OHSU to our own critical care units in these hospitals. It's going to be an advanced level of care that we're not able to provide here locally. I think in the day of COVID and all of what we've learned over this period of time, it becomes more and more critical to have these services available. And this service line is one that's expanding. It's one that Columbia Memorial Hospital certainly wants to be more involved in and explore. And it sounds like Coos Bay as well. So this would be a letter of support for a grant that would establish the program for 1 year, both at Columbia Memorial Hospital and at Bay Area Hospital in Coos Bay. So I guess if the commission agrees with that letter and supports it, I will go ahead and sign that on behalf of the commission.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
With telemedicine and technology in medicine becoming what it is, and the heartbreaking incidences of when I have had a friend have to be airlifted, etc. If you'll notice, I think all of our COVID deaths that happened in a hospital happened in Portland. I just think this is the kind of infrastructure that the state needs to have in more than just 2 places on the coast. So, I would love, you said this is a 1-year grant. So what do they do? They're kind of testing it out to see.
I think it's a pilot program, but it is something that I think Columbia Memorial Hospital would look to invest in the future should it work.
Right.
But this is kind of dipping the toe in the water to see how well we coordinate with Oregon Health Sciences University in this program. I've seen some modeling of how this works in other hospitals across the country. It's fascinating. You have a room 24 hours a day, 7 days a week that is available to a patient to be able to read their charts, to be able to, all of their medical records are available, and be able to provide the nurses on duty and physicians on duty with treatment procedures that they might not be aware of and might not be able to do on their own. So it's certainly the wave of the future, and I agree with you, Commissioner Webb. I hope that this is something that expands in more than just 2 hospitals, and I think that there are other programs in the state of Oregon, but this is certainly a new one for us, new one for Clatsop County.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you need a motion or?
I think just support. I mean, this as long as everybody's in agreement, then I'll go ahead and sign it. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks so much. We'll go ahead to the county manager's report, and Monica.
Mr. Chair, could I just interrupt? I'm so sorry. Please
Commissioner
forgive me.
Thompson, go ahead.
I got a text from Nancy Chase that said she had been on the line. What do we do when someone has been on the line, has signed up for public comment, and then isn't able to be heard? I don't know what your pleasure is, but I wanted to bring it to our attention because she said she was there. She did go to the trouble to sign up to speak, and so I'm not sure what to do, but there we are. Thank you.
I have no problem doing the business from the public again and allowing her an opportunity to speak if she's on the line. Is Nancy, can you hear us?
I just sent her a text and told her to call in again. I hope that she can get through. Thank you, sir.
Okay. We'll move on to the county manager's reports and Monica.
Thanks. Earlier when Phil was giving his legislative update, he talked about the federal funding, the American Rescue Plan money. And I just wanted to let you know that Dawn and I have been working on going through the requirements of that and the amount that the county is proposed to receive directly, which would be approximately 7.8 million that we would have access to through December of 2024. So that is stuff that we are working on to bring before the board, and then also taking into consideration as we're working through the proposed budget for the 21-22 fiscal year. And then the other thing that you all probably received in your email while you were in the work session is that AOC Day is May 11th, and they are planning to have both a virtual and in-person version of this. And so I just wanted to let you all know that if you are interested in attending and you need reservations or RSVP done for you, please either call Teresa or email Teresa. She is back in the office part-time right now. And so she can get you registered and get a room for you if you're wanting to go in person. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Monica. So we can go ahead and go back to the business for the public. And so this is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda except public hearings, which will be following this, or topic of county concern that's not on the agenda. And clerk of the board, we did have someone sign up, register to speak. Nancy, are you on the call here? Nancy Chase?
If she's on the call, if you could ask her to unmute herself. And I'm not sure if she's guest or caller 2 or who she might be.
Looks like Commissioner Thompson's on the phone with her.
She said she'd try again. She's been the whole time. She said she thought staff had her on mute. So, so I don't know.
Was it a star? Is it a *6 to unmute yourself, or is it 6? Nancy, can you *6 if you're guest?
I don't know.
I'm unable to unmute people from my end here. They'll have to do it themselves.
So Nancy,
If she can email, I mean, it's not the same if she's not reading it, but if she wants to email something to it, we can read it into the record.
yes. So Nancy,
I also think it might.
Go ahead.
I think it's *6 to mute yourself and *9 to unmute yourself, but I'm not sure.
I think it's *6 to unmute. I'm pretty sure. So Nancy, if you heard that, can you hear us? Hello.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can.
Oh, yeah. Now the pressure's on to make this really good. So, oh, well, I'll try my best. Thank you so much. Hey, I spoke last time regarding the short-term rental issues and the workshops that you've been doing. And I think I had spoken last time that I didn't think having a committee would be productive, given the cast of characters involved and the different opinions. But if public engagement is your goal, you have 147 pages of quite emotional testimony, and I don't think that's the end of it. And I really want to compliment you on the hotline, getting a hotline in action, complaint hotline, and that staff is working on revisions to address violations, but also, I hope, penalties for those who are falsely complaining about short-term rentals. And these and other changes, I think, will have a lot of public input. And I think you need to adopt those in your best, using your best judgment, and then let a year or two go and see how it works. And if you go to page, I believe it's 147, or excuse me, 144, you'll see a good neighbor policy that those of us in Cove Beach are trying to work not only with short-term rental owners, but part-time and full-time residents. We all have issues sometimes with our neighbors and trying to do it proactively. So I'd say give us a little time to work before and see how it needs to be tweaked. The $550 fee for renewal, I just want you to understand that part of that checklist to get a permit is to have your septic evaluated, and that's another $900. So it's kind of a major cost, and DEQ recommends septic testing evaluations only 4 to 5 years. So I'd like you to take that into account. So maybe we renew every 2 years, but every other time you need to have your septic evaluated. And then there are financial impacts to not being able to transfer this permit. There were concerns about liability, but in your existing permit fee structure, you have a $300 fee for when a short-term rental permit is transferred, that the inspector comes in to make sure everything's up to speed and that there aren't going to be any liability issues to the owner or to the county. So anyway, I think there's some details in the short-term rental ordinances to consider, and I'm looking forward to the coming workshop to hear more. So thanks so much. And I just want to say my short-term rental's been there long before many of the full-time residents, and their families come to stay there. And all I can think is that they really don't want their families to visit maybe. But anyway, we'll keep working on it. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Can you state your address for the record?
Yes, it's 3026 Northeast 22nd Avenue, Portland, Oregon, 97212. And I own land up at Fort Stevens and in Falcon Cove, Cove Beach.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm glad we were able to get in.
Yeah, no, I sure appreciate the effort. You're to be commended. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
We'll move on to the public hearing this evening. Public hearing is scheduled for ordinance number 21-01, standards for access permits and other activities occurring in county public rights-of-way. So this, as you all remember, is a continuation of a public hearing on ordinance number 21-01. Do we have any additional information from staff?
Good evening, Commissioners. This is a continuation of the public hearing and a second reading of ordinance 2101, the standards for access permits and other activities occurring in public right-of-ways. Ordinance 2101 would amend the Clatsop County Code of Regulations, Title 12, regulating activities within those right-of-ways. Since September, the board has held 3 separate work sessions for staff to provide information for clarification between the existing verbiage in the Clatsop County Code of Regulations, Title 12, and the amended version, which will be enforced through ordinance 2101. The board had the first public meeting and reading of ordinance 2101 on March 10th and voted to continue the hearing on March 24th. At the March 24th meeting, it was decided to extend the second reading until April 14th with the minutes as shown. At this point, I'd like to ask County Council for clarification as to whether amending the ordinance at the March 24th meeting makes this the first reading of the ordinance or still qualifies as a second reading.
Thank you, Commissioner and Chair. As indicated by Mr. Hendricks, in fact, this is a second reading, and this qualifies as a second reading because first of all, the modifications that were made between the first reading and the second reading were included in the agenda packet. And those changes are in section 12.24.045. And essentially, I'll just summarize those changes for you. It states that the prohibition of commercial use within the right-of-way shall not apply to flower stands or seasonal produce stands limited to 120 feet and that have acquired a permit from Public Works. So it just adds that additional exception. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from staff?
At this time, staff is asking the board to take public testimony, close the hearing, and conduct the second reading of the ordinance by title only.
Okay. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Is there any public testimony? Clerk of the board, has anyone signed up to speak?
We have no one signed up to speak at the public hearing.
Okay. No one signed up to speak. Commissioner Webb, you have a question?
Can I make a comment
Sure,
instead of a question?
sure.
I would just like, I hope you all noticed when you read through the ordinance that there were, that the additions and deletions were all marked in blue, I think. And I thought it was very, I just wanted to mention that I was very impressed with the fact that our road staff had taken this opportunity to not just add the paragraph about the right of way, but also tidied up the ordinance to a really nice extent. And I hope we can encourage our staff to always do that, because poor Terry had to spend an hour on the phone with me answering a zillion questions. But I thought it was a really cool that now this section 12 looks really good. I mean, it feels good and looks good. And so kudos for that. And I hope our staff always takes that opportunity. Thank you. Thanks again, Terry.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think I'm going to break protocol just a little bit. I know that Alan Berry had reached out to me earlier today, and I had responded to him this evening. And I don't know if he happens to be on this call or not, but I did want to provide him an opportunity to say something, because I didn't get back to him till late this afternoon. So is Alan happen to be on this call or happen to be in the meeting? Okay, do we have anybody else that wanted to provide comment on this that might not have signed up? Well, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Do we have any discussion or a motion from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I would move that the board adopt ordinance 21-01, standards for access permits and other activities occurring in county public rights of way, and conduct the second reading of the ordinance by title only.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance number 21-01, standards for access permits and other activities occurring in county public rights of way, and conduct the second reading of the ordinance by title only. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Please note that Commissioner Toyoka did have to leave, so he's not voting on this. Okay, now may we have the second reading by title only?
In the matter of standards for access permits and other activities occurring in county public rights of way.
Thank you, Joanna. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you for the opportunity to present it.
Thank you for your hard work on this. We'll move on to the business agenda this evening. We have the Planning Commission appointment for the Bruce Francis replacement on page 104, and Gail Henriksen.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. Gail Henriksen, Community Development Director. We had two applicants for the open position for Bruce Francis. His term expires on June 30th, 2023. The two applicants were Carrie Johnson and Randolph Tad Peterson. Both would represent the Northeast Planning Area and are in District 4, Commissioner Bangs' district. We brought the two applicants before you for a work session on March 24th, 2021, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions? I see two hands up there. Commissioner Bangs.
I had a discussion with county manager regarding whomever does not get this appointment, that their application rolls over into the pool of applicants for any other open positions. Is that, I wanted an affirmation or that is a correct assumption.
That's correct, Commissioner Bangs. The applications will be kept on file for 2 years.
Okay, thank you. For any upcoming open positions, correct?
Correct.
Excellent. Thank you.
We just to clarify though, we had already brought, not knowing who you're going to appoint tonight, we had already brought names for consideration from Commissioner Myrna Patrick's open position. Did you want us to bring whoever isn't appointed tonight back to you for another work session for that position?
Yes, if we could, that would be great.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have Commissioner Thompson question?
Well, thank you. And mine is a somewhat broader question, but related to what Commissioner Bangs said. We're blessed with community members who want to contribute to the well-being of our community by joining us in volunteer capacity. I know we have constraints on staff. I would love to see somebody have it be a project, whether it's a school project or some other mechanism that's low cost, that we have a database of community volunteers that we keep fueled and used so that we don't lose people, because that's a precious resource. And I'd just like to see us keep it, ask for it, keep it, and use it well in the future in the form of a database that's regularly drawn from and applied to. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. I would be remiss not to mention that we've had such good volunteers with the vaccine project. 200 volunteers in Clatsop County have participated in that. It's pretty overwhelming and much needed. Much appreciated. Any other questions? Okay, what's the pleasure of the commission?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Banks, it's your district. Do you want to take it? Sorry.
I suggest the appointment of Kerry Johnson for this position. He has exhibited a past history of participating on the Planning Commission, has experience, and is also extremely experienced in land planning and construction. And so I feel like he would be a definite choice for a positive addition to our Planning Commission. Oh, but I also want to take note, Tad Peterson, having been a previous fire marshal for Clatsop County, is also a very upstanding citizen, and I am glad to hear that his application will roll over for the Myrna Patrick potential position.
Okay, Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. Waiting my turn in line. I would also like to speak in support of Kerry Johnson. I've worked with him for several years on the Clatsop Soil and Water Conservation District. He's just a really decent human being. He's a good decision maker, and he understands what it means when policies are enacted and then enforced. What it's like to actually work under the policies that we set in place. So I think he's wonderful as a reality check. And I appreciate both his character and his skill set. So I'm happy to support him. If Commissioner Bangs was making that motion, I would second it.
Okay, moved and seconded that the board approve the appointment of Kerry Johnson to the Clatsop County Planning Commission to fill the term of Bruce Francis, which will expire on June 30th, 2023. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. I couldn't agree more with both Commissioner Thompson and Commissioner Bangs' comments. Kerry will be an excellent addition to the Planning Commission. Next, we have the appointments to Clatsop Plains, Northeast, and Countywide Citizen Advisory Committees on page 116. And Gail, you're up again.
Yes, thank you. So we had 3 applications that were received before our deadline for additional members to the citizen advisory committees. One was from Dick Bash, who currently lives in Seaside. One was from Mary Olson, who is from the Northeast area. And the third was from Robert Taylor, who's in the Clatsop Plains area. Since the applications were received and this agenda item was prepared, Ms. Olson has withdrawn her application. So that would leave the appointment of Mr. Bash to the countywide Citizen Advisory Committee and Mr. Taylor to the Clatsop Plains Citizen Advisory Committee. In conjunction with this, the next item on the agenda would be a request to revise the bylaws for the planning area advisory committees in order to increase the membership, which is currently capped at 5. We would need to increase that up to 7 in order to accommodate this appointment. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Banks.
I don't know if this is possible, but I was hoping that we could potentially table the appointments, because I had a constituent reach out to me that said that they called, they wanted to apply, they were told that the seats were filled, and then therefore did not apply. And so I feel like we need to do the open it up for 7 seats to fill, and then potentially maintain that application period opening so that constituents can kind of navigate through I feel like what was a misunderstanding.
Commissioner Banks, was the constituent applying for one of the or what advisory committee were they applying for? Just out of curiosity.
Honestly, I can text and ask him.
Okay.
I know he's an Astoria resident.
Okay. So is your request to approve or amend the advisory committee bylaws prior to doing these appointments?
Yes, just to keep the
Or do you want
application period. Go ahead, sorry.
Or did you want to table the appointments?
So I wanted to change, potentially, make a motion to change from 5 to 7 seats, but table the appointments so that an application period could either A, remain open or be reopened, so that, because I feel like this whole situation is so that we can have able-bodied and interested members be a part of our community discussions. And I feel like it's a misunderstanding. I'm sure it's a misunderstanding or a miscommunication. And I just want every person that is interested to have the opportunity.
Can I second that motion? What, is that clear? The motion
Moved and seconded to table the appointment to the planning, to the advisory committee, Citizens Advisory Committee. Is that correct? That's the motion? Okay. Seconded to table the appointments to the Citizens Advisory Committees to our next regular commission meeting. Okay, any further discussion? Commissioner Thompson.
Well, thank you, sir. Well, I understand Commissioner Banks' concern, and I support that. And I see that we had 3 applicants to advisory committees, but only 2 possible to move on. So I understand the reason for not appointing people. On the other hand, Dick Bash is in the audience tonight, and I'm eager to vote to place him on there. Out of respect for my colleague, I would ask Mr. Bash to have patience with us as we work through this process. It's no reflection on his capacity or our welcome for him or anybody else. We just have to do it right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Well stated. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to table the appointments to the Citizens Advisory Committee this evening. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay. We will table those and bring them back at a future meeting. Next item is the amendment of the Comprehensive Plan Update Citizen Advisory Committee bylaws, which is on page 130. And Gail, you had already spoke to this. This is to increase the number of members from 5 to 7 on
Correct.
the advisory committees.
Yes.
Do we have a motion to that effect?
I move that the board approve to amend the Planning Area Citizen Advisory Committee bylaws to increase the number of members from 5 to 9. Wait, is it 5 to 9? Okay, just making sure, sorry.
Are we doing 5? Because I have it written both ways. I have 5 to 7
Yeah.
and I have 5 to 9. Which one are we doing?
Sorry, it should be 5 to 9.
5 to 9. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, okay, I just feel like that's an awful lot of hens in the hen house. Pardon my slang there. Goodness. I assumed 7. I apologize, Mark. I actually I need to retract my motion if that is even possible, and discuss this. I apologize.
Well, it hasn't been seconded to this point. I see Commissioner Webb has her hand up there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I had seconded it, but
Oh,
I
you did?
thought I had seconded it for 9. So, and I would just like to say that it is a lot of chickens in the hen house. But over the course of, I don't know, what have we been at this scale for 2 years or something? We seldom have all members at any countywide meeting. You know, on the comp plan, seldom. And I know in my planning area, the Woluski, Lewis and Clark, we have had a terrible time with turnover of memberships. And so I think the higher we can make it, then perhaps the more consistent. And I know it's a lot of work for Gail to go through this, you know, attracting people in the, you know, so, and in my estimation, almost any resident of the county should be welcome on any of these committees. So did you withdraw your?
So I just, before continuing, I want to reaffirm with Gail. I feel like your workload is high already. And how do you feel about adding, I mean, I agree with Commissioner Webb in regards to all should be welcome in if they're interested in volunteering. I agree with that. My concern is staff overload. And so when I read 9, but I thought I was talking about 7, I wanted to reaffirm with Gail that this is something that you're okay with. I mean, this is your workload.
Right. So thank you, Commissioner Banks. It doesn't necessarily increase our workload. The reason I think there was confusion, and I apologize for that, is I initially changed the bylaws, putting 7 down, and then realized that we already have 7 on our Clatsop Plains Advisory Committee because we appointed liaisons from the Chinook Indian Nation and Camp Rylea. And then we had a new applicant come in with Mr. Taylor, which would push us up to 8. So I just put 9 in, leaving some wiggle room in case there are additional appointments that the board would want to make. I would not recommend going above 9 for the planning area committees, and the countywide is already capped at 11, and that's definitely the max we want to keep that one at. So I apologize for the confusion on that.
I cannot find my motion now at this point, but I am moving, and Pam had seconded. So I'm sorry. I apologize for putting a hitch in the giddy up here, but here we go.
No worries. So we do have a motion on the table to approve to approve to amend the Planning Area Citizen Advisory Committee bylaws to increase the number of members from 5 to 9. All those in favor signify with an aye. Oh, Commissioner Webb, you have a.
No, I was
You have
just seconding it. Since
Okay,
it was
excellent.
changed.
Right. We got this one. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the Human Services Advisory Council BOCC grant, recipient rewards to outside agencies. And that's on page
And
137. And Monica?
yes, I was going to, Hannah was going to present again. I'm not seeing her. Tom, is she on the phone?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Hannah.
Yes.
Okay. The Human Services Advisory Council brought their recommendations to the outside agencies to the board during a work session on March 24th, 2021. During that meeting, a total of 14 applications were discussed. For the recommendation process, 3 members and 1 mediator from the council were chosen to conduct that process. Those members included Chair Dr. Robert Mushin, Marion Durlett, and Chet Chedsey, and Linda Crandall as the mediator. The entire council unanimously agreed to recommend 9 of the 14 organizations to be awarded those grants. Those organizations are the Assistance League, Columbia Pacific, Astoria Lions Sight and Hearing, Camp Kawanalong, Clatsop Community Action, Grace Food Pantry, Healing Circle, Helping Hands Outreach Center, Lower Columbia Q Center, and the Restoration House. That is all from me.
Thank you, Hannah. Any questions? Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, sir. Hannah, I don't even know if you know the answer to this, but I was struck by the term mediator. I look for a mediator to be someone who's mediating conflict. Was she in the role of a facilitator for this process, or please help me understand?
Yes, that's correct. That's more of the word. She basically just attended the meeting and took notes and gathered all of what the other 3 were saying on a summary of what they decided to recommend.
Well, given that clarification, then I would move that the board approve the Human Services Advisory Council recommendations for funding $30,000 to outside agencies, including the Assistance League, Columbia Pacific, Astoria Lions Sight and Hearing, Camp Kawanalong, Clatsop Community Action, Grace Food Pantry, Healing Circle, Helping Hands Outreach Center, Lower Columbia Q Center, and lastly, Restoration House programs as presented.
Second.
I second.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve the Human Services Advisory Council's recommendation for funding of $30,000 to outside agencies as so narrated by Commissioner Thompson's motion. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
Next item is the Fern Hill Road vacation petition on page 211. And Vance Swenson is here to present on that.
Good evening, Chair Quilla and members of the board. I'm Vance Swenson, the county surveyor. The issue I've got before you is the acceptance of the petition for vacation of and relocation of basically the end of Fern Hill Road, kind of where it meets up with the John Day River. So we received a petition on February 26th to vacate and relocate this end of the road two landowners that live down there on each side of the road, Phil Papworth and Fong Van Horn. We were also received a check. So kind of the short history out there is Phil Papworth had renovated an old farmhouse, might have been a barn, into a residence, and that was before he had a survey done. Subsequent to him getting started on his renovation, his surveyor came out and located the old right-of-way. I don't know if you can see on there's an old map in there that shows where that right-of-way is. And of course, his house is in that right-of-way. And so Papworth and Van Horn, the neighbor across the street, have petitioned the county to move the road northerly in an attempt to get the right of way out far enough away from his renovation to meet setbacks. Since Fernhill Road provides access to the John Day River, we can't just end that road right there. There's some planning restrictions as far as access, cutting off access to the road. There's no intention, nothing on anybody's radar as far as that road connecting back up across an old bridge that was there 100 years ago to John Day. But we all are looking out at things that may happen 100 or 200 years from now. So our recommendation is that we don't eliminate that portion of the road. This is different than the probably 3 or 4 petitions and vacations that we processed before you all before, since it is an actual county road. It was historically used up until just this side, just in front of those 2 landowners, it is being used. And so to relocate it, technically the center of the right-of-way is the 2 petitioners' property line. So this is almost it really is an agreement for them to do a property line adjustment between the 2 of them. And we've kind of become involved as kind of the 3rd player in there since we control the right-of-way. So it's going to require the continual agreement of all 3 of us. And this is just the first step. It's just to accept the petition and basically you all saying, yes, go ahead and get started. I would imagine the next step where we have the county engineer prepare the roadmaster's report, we'll start getting into the details, and there could be some issues. It appears at first glance that this can happen, but just want to give you guys a little bit of a heads up that there might be some issues to work out, and hopefully it'll continue along. So yeah, to relocate that portion of the road is going to be accomplished by vacating the portions of the road that they've requested, and then we'll obtain the new where the right-of-way is going to end up being from the petitioners by deeds of dedication, and that will in effect move the road, move the right-of-way, not the road itself. There really isn't much of a road at the end. So again, this is the first step in the process. The second step will be to accept the roadmaster's report, and that will contain the detailed information. Since this is going to require more than just the vacation, the fiscal impact, they've paid for us processing the vacation, but as far as it's going to need extra survey work. It's going to have legal descriptions that need to be written, and the petitioners, in all fairness to the taxpayers, are going to pay for that extra work to do that. Since we're willing to move the road if we can, but so the options to consider is approve the resolution in order to initiate the vacation and relocation of portions of Fernhill Road and order a the report from the Clatsop County engineer, or number 2 is to not accept the road vacation petition, and we're recommending option 1. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, I see a couple questions there. Commissioner Bangs.
In regards to who's covering the cost of rebuilding the road and what type of road are we talking about? Is it a gravel drive? Is it chip seal? Is it, actually building a road as most would assume what a road is? So I'm just curious about the expense to the county.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't make it very clear. I kind of ummed and hawed and went between saying road and right of way, but it's really right there. There's the road ends on towards the highway of their house. So there's a kind of a chunk of right of way, just right of way, and not really a road there in between the 2 petitioners' houses. So there wouldn't be any new construction that, to speak of, at least to start with, to do this process. In the future, we may do something, but that would be totally separate.
Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, sir. So I've been accused of being something of a libertarian, although I am not. I am a lifelong registered member of another different political party, because my fundamental stance is, well, look, if it helps you and it doesn't hurt me, in this case, doesn't hurt county taxpayers or future county people who need to move along there and across that road, I would say yes. On the other hand, I was listening pretty carefully. You didn't tell us what the objections might be. Are they, and I don't want to, are they, is it in the nature of interpersonal conflict with which I am oh so familiar, or is it something more substantive as a matter of law, the concerns you have?
Well, I don't want to over dramatize it, but that was always kind of the concern with us is, the road, the right of way, excuse me, I keep saying that. The right of way is obviously going to move closer to Van Horn's for most of it. So the concern is obviously there needs to be a complete 100% agreement with Van Horn to do this. We haven't seen, I don't believe they've got around to marking the proposed right of way yet. I could see that being an issue. We made it perfectly clear to both Philip Papworth and Fung Van Horn that this is not something the county is pushing on anyone. We're willing to do it, just like you said, just to be a good neighbor. But and so by way of Mrs. Van Horn signing the petition, it appears she's in agreement. There was a little bit of issue even before we had we accepted the petition. We went back and checked again, and we as of this point, it appears that they're still in agreement. But as the time you're trying to agree on a property line and moving it, there's always that risk that it could, fall apart for one reason or another.
County Council had something she wanted to add here.
Thank you. I just wanted to let you all know that this is probably the 5th step in a very long code enforcement case that we're dealing with. And so this was a great solution, I think, that the landowner had come forth with. There were a couple other solutions that they could have come forth with. Just let you know, we're all cautiously optimistic that this will be the solution. We're working very carefully. Staff does have concerns, I think, as the surveyor has mentioned. And we just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, the right reasons. And that will be reflected in the report that you all receive.
Thank you, County Council. Commissioner Thompson.
I love to hear you talk like that, County Council. That's just fun. So the surveyor, County Council, I mean, it's just really lovely to have professional staff of your caliber to lay these options out and to do these very careful, very thoughtful negotiations. If there's anything that will make it easier to be good neighbors, it's the way you're operating now. And so thank you for those past efforts and for your cautious optimism. If it goes south, do the county taxpayers get stuck with any money? Is there a clear understanding that if there's a cost, county taxpayers don't have to pay it?
The fee is non-refundable, and on all of these, I try to make it a point to tell everyone up front and continually tell them that, hey, look, this is, once we peel back the layers of the onion, we're going to try to let we have an initial meeting before we even accept the petition, and we look at the obvious, but it's always, I try to make sure to tell them that, look, something could come out once we start into the details that could make this not happen. And it's entirely the Board of Commissioners' discretion to either accept or to allow the vacation or to deny it. Up to that very last minute, it's not any sort of guarantee. So they're aware of that.
Okay, so, Commissioner Webb.
Commissioner Webb has a comment.
I have a question. In your report, you talked about the fact that one of the whole issues here is that it's important to maintain access to the John Day River. Did I understand that right?
Yes,
Yes, is that?
Yes, if you can hear me. I checked in with planning, and I could get you, and we will have in the Roadmaster's report, the planning ordinances that basically for kind of coastal shorelands, there's some designated areas, and this is one of them. And so it's really to reduce or eliminate access isn't allowed by planning. Notwithstanding, we haven't checked with anyone up the road yet. We haven't sent out any of the public notices, which we will send. We plan on sending them to everyone along that road to see if they, obviously I would envision that someone's going to want to go down to the river and use that road to get there.
Yeah.
But even that said, I don't know. It sounds like, according to planning, that those ordinances wouldn't allow us to eliminate that road. We can move it, but we can't reduce the width or eliminate an access.
Okay, well, the other question then would be, we're looking at doing a new parks plan. And is this one of those things that can be a John Day access point at which we could provide for parking and facilities and things like that for access to the river? I haven't been out there, I'm sorry, so I haven't.
Well, if you're asking me,
I always go out there, but I just haven't had the time.
Honestly, that's a little bit out of my expertise. Only thing I can say, just from a surveying standpoint, and I don't want to get in over my head, but the right of way is only 60 feet wide there. Yeah, you could get access, but from another roadway that access to river, to have parking and stuff, that 60 feet wide is pretty small. So it's probably just going to be access. So.
Okay, thank you. No, that's great, Vance. I like I said, haven't been there. And we're really getting a lot of pressure from people about wanting river access to all of our rivers and trying to think about whether we need to provide larger places. Sometimes it means a boat ramp, but it probably wouldn't here. But anyway, thank you. I'm always thinking about parks opportunities. So.
Excuse me, Commissioner Banks?
Just for, I know the area that they're discussing, and it's right across from our other John Day ramp, an area where our fishermen like to go down, and where it's a very lovely park. But in the future, if you're looking for more park locations, we have like Napa Docks that, could potentially be a situation, or an add-in to Westport. So I'm just throwing those out there to you.
Westport, the gift that keeps on giving. Mr. Chair, are you ready for a motion?
Yes.
All right, I move to accept the petition for vacation and relocation of portions of Fernhill Road and authorize the board chair to sign the resolution and order initiating proceedings.
I second.
Moved and seconded to accept the petition for vacation and relocation of portions of Fernhill Road and authorize the chair to sign the resolution initiating proceedings. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Vance.
Thank you for your time.
Next item is appointment of budget committee members on page 221. And Monica?
Yes, I'll be presenting for you. So we brought before the board at a previous work session the applicants who submitted applications for the countywide budget committee. We had 2 applicants that kept their applications submitted, Gretchen Allen and Rayla Seekins. They're both applying for the vacancy in District 4. This is an unexpired term, and its term limit would end February of 2022. So they would just be serving for 1 year. And then we also have an applicant for the Road District Budget Committee. Currently, we have 5 Citizen Budget Committee vacant. It's a committee of 5. We have 1 individual who is currently serving, and now we have another applicant. And this individual lives in District 4. His name is Ben Bartlett. So that would mean that you would have 2 citizen committee members on the Road District Budget Committee. And then we also had 2 applicants for the 4-H and Extension District Budget Committee. Currently, there is 2 individuals currently on that committee of 5, and this would make it a citizen committee of 4. And those applicants are Ed Johnson and Patrick Duachek. And so we are looking for the board to make appointments to each of those 3 budget committees.
Commissioner Banks?
I looking at my District 4 applicants. I know Gretchen Allen very well. She's a well-respected CPA, and I would fully support her in this position to fill the District 4 countywide position. I feel like she's got quite a good background to fit budget committee. Just saying.
Commissioner Thompson?
Gotta love it when a CPA wants to join your budget committee. So I'm really happy about that. Thank you for your endorsement, Commissioner Banks. Is that a motion?
I can officially place a motion. I move that the board approve Gretchen Allen to fill the District 4 countywide position, Ben Bartlett to fill the District 1 position, Patrick Duachek and Ed Johnson to fill 2 of the 4-H and Extension Service District positions.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve Gretchen Allen to fill the District 4 countywide position, Ben Bartlett to fill District 1 position, the Road District 1 position, and Patrick Duachek and Ed Johnson to fill 2 of the 4-H and Extension Service District positions. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. The appointments are made. I completely agree. Gretchen Allen, I worked with her on the Liberty Restoration Board and really enjoyed working with her. She's an excellent addition to the Budget Committee. Next is the new Special Revenue Fund, org units and 2021 appropriation adjustments on page 237. And Monica.
Yes, so we, as you are all aware, are going to be receiving the American Rescue Plan monies. In order to track these monies better, since we will have them through use of them through 2024, we felt it best to make sure that it's in its own individual fund for transparency and tracking purposes. And so we are creating a fund. The fund name is going to be COVID, nothing flashy. It will have 2 org units in it, one of them being called the American Rescue Plan and the other one being called FEMA. And so we are bringing these before you now rather than during the 21-22 budget process, because we anticipate receiving the American Rescue Plan monies prior to the end of this fiscal year. And so the way that that money is to be received is initially you would be receiving 50% of your allocated amount up front is what they've been saying so far. So we anticipate receiving approximately 3.9 million. At this point in time, we would just be putting those monies into contingency, and then through the 21-22 budget process. And as I spoke earlier about the plan for those monies, we would then be allocating them out in the next budget year. The other org unit is for the FEMA reimbursement revenue, and this is kind of a moving target. We were working directly with FEMA in regards to getting reimbursements, and we recently have been encouraged through OHA to contract with them to have them get those FEMA monies for us instead. And they are also encouraging the hospitals to do that as well. So we are still planning to just have this org unit created, because like everything COVID, it's a moving target. And so we don't know if something will change. We were anticipating receiving approximately $4 million. And so we wouldn't spend any of those monies unless we received any of those monies. So this org unit may end up becoming inactive before it ever even gets used. But as a precaution at this point in time, we're asking that the board include it in this process.
Any questions, Commissioner Thompson?
No, you just got, the budget nerds are so happy when we get a new budget category and there's money coming in for it. Yay, way to go. Are you ready for a motion?
Yes.
I would move to approve the new special revenue fund and associated organizational units and the 2020-2021 appropriation adjustment as required by ORS 294.338 and 294.346, and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the new special revenue fund and associated organizational units and the 2020-2021 appropriation adjustment as required by ORS 294.338 and 294.346, and authorize the chair to sign. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed?
Sir. Mr.
Commissioner
Chair,
Thompson?
I made a joke about that. I'm conscious the reason we have this money coming in is because of the human suffering. I don't want to joke about that, but I'm glad that we have the capacity to do a thorough accounting and use taxpayer money well. So thank you for my attempt at humor.
Absolutely. Okay, moved and passed. Thank you very much. We're moving to the good of the order. I did want to, before Commissioner Toyoka left the meeting, he did have an item that he wanted me to bring up. It was about the Seaside property that reverted back to the county, the city of Seaside property that reverted back to the county when the school was sold. And the youth of our area need access to baseball and soccer fields. And apparently there's some barrier to not allow them to schedule those fields or for practices and whatnot. What process can the county pursue to allow the city of Seaside to ensure and schedule the use of those fields?
So I can speak to that, Commissioner. For one thing, that the recategorization of those will be coming before the board at your next meeting on the 28th. It is my understanding that the school district is managing the scheduling of those fields. still. We did talk to the city of Seaside, and we have those fields on our insurance. In addition, we have the indemnity clause for parks. And so if the city of Seaside wants to take over the scheduling, I know that they had concerns because the fields weren't in their name, but the fields are insured in the county's name. So the city of Seaside could take over that scheduling piece of it now. The categorization, like I said, will be coming before the board on the 28th. And we have something that we'll be updating you with your Friday updates, just to let you know that the process of that, the categorization, and then it will go to the city of Seaside. They will receive a deed. They'll have to record the deed, sign it, submit it to the clerk's office. So it is very close to being finalized.
Okay,
And
thank you.
then I did also just want to remind you that there is an executive session.
Yeah, thank you, Monica. And I'll relay that information to Commissioner Toyoka. Any other items for the good of the order? Okay, hearing none, we are going to adjourn and then go into executive session. The Clatsop County Board of Commissioners will now